Hi everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Happy Thanksgiving again to all Americans. Let's get into what the markets look like for tonight, Sunday, November 29th, leading into the 30th. So let's get to that. Before I get started, I just want to remind you that there is, if you're interested in any of this stuff, you can go over to quantlabs.net/book to get some free stuff. Just opt in here. Questions, if you want to know more on how to enhance your trading, I'm not sure how long I'll be doing this for, probably for another 24 hours. You can send over your questions and you'll be able to talk to me. Beyond that, not sure how long I'll be supporting that. Lastly, what I'm about to show you is MotiveWave. They are having their 30% sale. That will end tomorrow. The 30th is the last day. So let's show you the MotiveWave. Okay, so we have here our good old, we've talked about this many times, regarding global markets. Is a very good way to follow the overall hot capital flow. This is the data from Oanda. We never recommend you to trade on Oanda, but let's get to that right now. Alrighty. So here we go. So what you're looking at, as I said, is a MotiveWave, and here's our objective. I like the long only, and we'd like to see the target of the harmonic scan, whatever type of scan it is, above the current price, and then we consider that a long. So I don't like to see shorts like in this situation. So obviously that's a short. Now let me make a comment there. The Australian dollar has always been fairly strong, but now it's been weakening, and it has weakened. So just be aware of that. This one is an interesting one. Denmark is starting to show some strength. But this one is where I get more concerned about the overall market. And you can see what's been happening over the last few hours and the last few days, these big bars. This is something to be concerned about. This is what we call the gold-silver ratio. This is the number one thing you look at when you start to see the markets go bad. If I was to show you a daily chart here, the last crash here in March, you can see it rose. So this is definitely one of those safe haven trades that you can use. So there's not a lot of commodities out there that cover that. So just be aware of that. If you start to see some form of trouble in the markets, this is what you're looking for, and that's it right there. Because you can see here, it's our third one, the most popular, excellent score. And when you start to see the gold silver and it's starting to perform like these big bars here, that's going to move, and something's brewing in the markets. So again, we move into Australia, Hong Kong. I've talked about either Singapore or Hong Kong dollars or the Japanese yen. It's not as strong as UI. I don't know why, but you can see. So again, as I mentioned here before, leading into this, how we had the Australian USD. There's a short, and let me see if I'm skipping anything. No, it doesn't look like it. And here we have another long or short. So we have two shorts here. Okay, so those are things to be aware of. So continuing along, this one I wouldn't really pay a lot of attention to. This is the Swiss franc and the rand. Something I wouldn't really be concerned with, just because the rand just doesn't have stability in its price. Euro Canadian, two longs there. Does that mean that the Canadian dollar is looked upon as a new safe haven? The way between those two is looking to be that way. Hong Kong dollar has a short. Now, this is the interesting thing, is that the Euro USD is starting to move up. They've been talking about that, but now it's starting to turn. So reliability would tell me that this will turn, and it will turn down. So even though this is still going up, Euro USD, it's something I would probably take heed that you're starting to see short calls now. Again, another short in the Singapore dollar. Natural gas. Now this is another interesting new commodity that I haven't seen before. I don't know if it's because it's Sunday night, but here you see an energy product. It's starting to move up and starting to look long. Now if this continues tomorrow, Tuesday, so on, then you know that this will stay in play. All right, so here we get into our usual. We know which way this is going to go. This is a UK 10-year bond. This is going to go up. The 5-year, 10-year are all moving up, and they're showing that. The one that has the best performance out of those three in terms of duration on the bond side, you can say that 2 years is probably going to give you the best performance. Here it's not in there, but from what I've seen, 2 years probably the most gives you the best performance. So here now we have three longs for USD Denmark. So that may move up. This might be early stages of something. You can see here, try to move up, but it's been in a very strong decline. Once again, I've talked about this before. Wheat, USD, once you start to see agriculture products, and the reason why you start to see agriculture, because there's not a lot of performance in other areas in terms of commodities. There's no oil. Yeah, we're seeing natural gas, but that long term. But you're starting to see this potentially move up as a long. And again, we come back to our good old gold silver that I showed earlier. That's still on. And that's the last excellent score. So now we start to get into the very good stuff, like very good rating or score. These may actually be what I call bubbling under and may start to perform. So here, Australian CHF, they're shorting. And one thing that should be up here is either the Japanese yen as well as more of these CHF, Swiss franc, as a defense play, and that will clarify, yes, this is a potential safe haven currency, and traditionally they are, but you're not seeing them in the excellence scores. But I've just shown you examples of the Canadian dollar. But why I don't sit here and say, oh yeah, for sure the Canadian dollar is going to be one of those currencies that for sure is a safe haven, is because there's not enough pairs in there in Canadian dollar to make me state that as a fact. I'm just speculating that it may be. Okay, so here we've talked about this one, Australian, New Zealand. Look at the amount we have here. There's 3 of them, 4 of them. Okay, so that's pretty convincing. So this might start to turn up with the Australian, New Zealand. Now I just showed you that the Australian dollar is weakening, and is really weakening as traditionally it should up to a point. It was very strong. Now the New Zealand dollar may be another story, but again, we're not seeing any other coins in here, or sorry, any other currency pairs that in New Zealand are showing strength. So yes, there are 4 calls for a long here between the Australia and New Zealand, but it may be bubbling under and may start to move up. Moving along, Canadian CHF, 2 shorts. I don't pay attention to that. And as I said, in Japanese yen, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and they're all short. So that's something. I mean, that's an opportunity there. And another one, Canadian dollar and Singapore dollar. Okay, so those are shorts as well. So it says something about the Canadian dollar. CHF in a Hong Kong dollar. This looks like a good trade right now, but it's pointing down. So these are not 100% accurate. As you can see here, that it's going the opposite way. Euro against the British pound. Again, that's a long. See how strong and upward momentum that has? I'm pretty convinced that is the case. But here we have 2 of them, so those are long. So that's good. Then we get into, again, the Japanese yen. Look at it. It's another short. Another Japanese yen that is a short. So that's telling me to stay away. So here is one that I'm looking at that I do think will start to move up if the markets start to move negative. And you know that again by just looking at the history. If you look at the daily, look at what happened in March. The Euro Norwegian, this is the Euro Norwegian, moved up. So if you start to see these longs and they become more convincing right now, then that tells you you got to pay special attention to that. Okay, so even though it's flat, it will move up, and that's from the last crash that we had. Euro against the Swedish, same thing. We have another long. And I can show you the same thing. If I look at the daily chart, what did it do in March when we had the last crash? It moved up, but not as much as the Norwegian. So if you want performance, it will be the Norwegian one that will move up. Here we have the Euro Turkish Lira. Again, it's kind of like going nowhere. This kind of surprised me right here, this move. But I'm a little leery on trading the Turkish Lira, of course, because of the spread. British pound against the Australian. How many shorts we got here? 2 shorts, 3 shorts, and 4. So you don't trade that if you don't want to trade this pair, British pound against the Australian, because it shows a short. British pound the Canadian, 2 shorts. So again, so we have more. British pound against the Japanese yen, 2 shorts. There's a lot of shorts for Britain, but why is Britain and Europe showing along? So that might be a way to convince yourself that maybe that is a false positive, meaning, look, you have all shorts. Now I've just shown you Polish, Japanese yen, Canadian, Australian dollar, all shorts. Now we have the British pound and the US dollar, more shorts. So you know that this is pretty convincing that this is not much shorts when it comes to the British pound. NASDAQ 100, shorts. Okay, so maybe the markets might not strengthen this week. New Zealand against the franc. Again, as I said about the franc, that's not a strong one either. And again, we're not seeing what we want to see. Singapore or Japanese yen, another short. Now this one's interesting. You can see here since September it's been moving up. This is sugar and USD. Starting to flatten out, little tiny pullback, but it may continue to move up. How do I know that? Go back to your historical and check what happened in March. So from January to March, and all through March it declines. So I may be wrong with this, and this may be a good lead-in, because look what happened. Between mid-November till the start of mid-February, when that coronavirus hit, it started to track. So could that happen? This might be your early warning sign. If sugar starts to tank, I don't know, but it may. That might be it. That might be the trigger point. Don't ask me why sugar might be that point of why it may start to decline. But that's something to really be concerned with. Turkish against the Japanese yen, another short. Not a lot of strength in the market. They're out there, but I'm also showing you when it does crash what to look for. And as I said, the 2 ones I would be all over is the gold-silver ratio, as well as the Norwegian currency, because that's going to be a safe haven. Russell, again, pointing down. Now, remember what I said about the 2-year bond? This one is giving you the best performance out of the bonds. Okay, so that's a 2-year. You got a long there, and we got a few more. So compare this kind of performance to the 10-year. It's not as smooth. Okay, it's not as smooth. This one's a lot smoother. So the 2 years a better place to be in the 10 years. See, it has little pullbacks here. So if you are going to play the Treasury, go after it should be the longer duration one should be giving you the better performance. But I just find it quite surprising that it's the 2-year. And that's just a safe trade that people want to hide out in. So we got that. It's still long on the 10-year Treasury. That's fine. Now this is another one that should be doing well, especially if the markets are pointing up. But as a traditional trade, you see that both of these are longs, but the performance is pointing down. So if you're starting to see 2 longs on the USD CHF, that might start to hint as well as that maybe something's brewing in the water, as they call. Something's in the water that you don't want to go into the water because there's something very dangerous, okay, coming after you. And that is maybe we're on that precipice of where just maybe the markets may start to turn down. I will tell you the markets have been starting to peter out, okay? So that's the first warning sign. Going into this week, there should be no reason that the markets will strengthen. It really comes down to the vaccine, and that is what's stabilizing it. Also, where Trump is conceding and willing to give up the White House, so that may help as well. So that's good news, but it's also preventing a crash. That's how I view it. Now, here's the one that we all want to watch. Once again, is the USD Chinese yuan. You see how it's not performing as you want? The reason is I'm starting to think of the last week, as I've shown you, they're starting to see cracks in the bond market of the Chinese bond market, AAA companies that are state controlled, but are starting to show cracks where they're not paying out. They're defaulting on their expected payout on the bonds. So there may be something brewing in China as well. And you know, with the Chinese and the Chinese Communist Party, they may be trying to hide something. So here we get into Mexico. We got some more longs, and this would make sense to me if the USD in Mexico may start to perform. But you know how you, again, check that out? See how it did in March, and voila. See how it moved up? So this may be another safe haven trade. Okay, that's just another way. And again, you got more longs here for Norway, and as I've shown this already, the 1 day, what happened in March? Moved up. So you got now two places to hide out in is between USD Mexico peso there and Norway. Okay, so those are two longs that if something happens, that's the place to go, as well as the gold and silver ratio. So how does the USD Turkish Lira look? Again, I wouldn't play this. It's a long, but I'm seeing more Turkish Lira, maybe because of there's not a lot to perform. But if we look at the 1 day, how did it perform in March? Really, it didn't do anything. But, you know, long term, that's a pretty good trade. But it's not a very liquid trade. All right, well, we got one more. It comes back to what we already talked about, is the wheat. So again, you know, it's a short. So that's pretty well it. Don't see anything on the chat. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and have a good selves, night, day, wherever you.